Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we are unpacking some absolutely fascinating academic research by Associate Professor Dr. Afasavad Suravadanawara Bachara. We're going to explore how the recent pandemic acted as this massive catalyst, literally accelerating our transition into a truly borderless business world. We have a lot of ground to cover today, and honestly, the insights here are a real game changer. Let's get right into it.
I want you to think about this for just a second. What if your customer base wasn't just your city or even your country, but the entire planet? It's a pretty wild thought, right? Our reach today is virtually limitless, but actually operating on a global scale? Well, that requires a complete rewiring of how we think about work. So let's take a look at the roadmap for how we actually get there.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We're going to start with the borderless business world, then move into life as a digital nomad. Navigate those legal and cultural checkpoints, explore scaling your side hustle, master remote teamwork, and wrap it all up with the future of work. This is the exact journey an entrepreneur takes to turn a totally chaotic dream into a sustainable global reality.
All right, Section 1. The borderless business world, shifting your mindset.
You see, this shift in mindset is really where everything begins. The pandemic essentially created a once-in-a-lifetime natural experiment for all of us. It forced this broad adoption of remote work and new tech pretty much overnight, proving that physical borders, they just aren't the barriers they used to be. But before we go any further, let's establish our baseline here. Global entrepreneurship is formally defined as establishing an organization operating in more than one country to exploit unique opportunities and competitive advantages despite not being transnationally owned. Basically, what this means is you don't need to be some massive multinational corporation to operate global anymore. You just need to seize the opportunity.
So how do we actually build this thing? Well, the research brilliantly illustrates three crucial phases. Step 1, you absolutely must retrain your mind to realize the world is borderless. Step 2, you have to build a business idea that actually fits into this new game of globalization. And Step 3, you got to take the plunge into a world that, quite frankly, is going to throw a lot of surprises at you. It sounds simple on paper, right? But that mental shift in Step 1, that's often the hardest part of the whole shebang.
Which brings us to Section 2, Life as a Digital Nomad, Expectation versus Reality.
So as workers became completely untethered from their physical offices, the digital nomad lifestyle just absolutely exploded. But what does that life actually look like on the ground? Well, if you look at pop media, the expectation is always, sun, sea, and exotic surf. It looks like a permanent vacation. But the reality, drawn directly from the research here, is often much harsher. We're talking crushed expectations, absolute time zone chaos, and unfinished task managers just lost in a sea of emails. It is incredibly easy to lose your balance when your office is literally a beach.
The research actually highlights a specific and, frankly, fascinating anecdote to prove this. We can call it the Bali hammock dilemma. Imagine this. A graphic designer tries to disrupt the product world but lacks the specific management skills to do it remotely. She hires 3 freelancers, completely fails to give her concepts shape, drowns in open design tasks, and basically ends up flopping into a hammock in Bali's rice fields, forced to just reassess everything. The big takeaway here? If you want to survive, you absolutely cannot have this tourist trap mindset. You've got to establish non-negotiable daily work habits just like a local would.
Moving right along to Section 3, Legal and Cultural Checkpoints, Navigating the Pitfalls.
Once you start operating globally, the inevitable trials of entrepreneurship become, well, a whole lot more complex, starting with the really heavy regulatory hurdles of international compliance. You have to understand how to protect what's yours before you step foot into a foreign market. So the crucial point is knowing the difference here. Trademarks protect your names, logos, or slogans through formal registration. Trade secrets, on the flip side, rely on a legal framework to keep your proprietary information and your unique company culture secure to prevent leaks. As an entrepreneur, you have got to do your due diligence on intellectual property, or you seriously risk losing your competitive advantage literally overnight. But hey, legal contracts aren't the only pitfall here. Just imagine this timeline. You schedule a meeting at 2000 in Sao Paulo. Because of the time zone difference, your coworker in Berlin is forced to stay awake until 2 in the morning. By the very next morning, that exhaustion breeds frustration, which leads to a total breakdown of trust. Time zones are completely unforgiving, guys. They can literally destroy a business relationship overnight if you aren't carefully managing them.
And it goes even deeper than that. It's about how we speak to each other. The source material states, and I quote, "An ironic comment, passed unnoticed in a casual meeting with coworkers of the same culture, can easily spiral into distrust and resentment when discussed thousands of miles away." That is so true.
Cultural sensitivity and communication styles are just as critical as your rock-solid legal contracts. A simple, offhand joke in one culture can be a profound insult in another.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 4, Scaling Your Side Hustle from Passion to Profit.
As companies all over the world embrace these flexible work models, we are seeing this massive trend. Workers are increasingly turning their part-time passion projects into full-scale, profitable global businesses. But to scale successfully, you have to master time. Research shows that poor time use doesn't just hurt your business viability, it actually harms your personal health. You must embrace these 4 strategies: delegating, so assigning tasks to others; organizing those miscellaneous tasks; prioritizing, to identify what's actually important; and scheduling specific blocks of time. If you fail to implement these, you are absolutely going to burn out. No way around it.
And as you scale, how do you actually charge your international clients? Well, you generally have 2 choices. There's the hourly rate, charging per hour of work, which is super transparent, but clients will often try to negotiate you down. Or you can go with a fixed rate, a flat charge for similar tasks. This ensures equal treatment of your clients and really eases that budget constraint pressure. The research explicitly warns that remote work is often perceived by clients as cheaper, so it is absolutely vital that you hold firm on your rates and know your true value in the global marketplace.
Section 5. Mastering remote teamwork, connection over distance. Now, once you've scaled up, you've got to figure out how to build a cohesive, unified culture when your team is scattered all across the globe. And here is a pretty harsh truth: the isolation trap. Now, what's really interesting about this finding is that the research explicitly notes working exclusively remote can make an individual feel 100 times more isolated than being surrounded by an office of people. There is a profound difference between simply working from home and working healthfully from home. Leaders absolutely have to actively combat this isolation.
So how do we actually fix it? Well, here are some actionable steps for managers to foster global trust. You have to celebrate birthdays and cultural events remotely. You need to conduct team-building exercises where there are 0 productivity checks. Just let people connect. Encourage small talk to build those personal bonds, and foster affinity over smaller, regularly scheduled meetings rather than those massive all-hands calls. When dealing with international talent, always remember this rule: high trust equals high efficiency.
Finally, we reach Section 6, the future of work, AI and decentralization.
Let's zoom out and look at the massive macro trends that are fundamentally shaping this borderless economy for the years to come. First off, we have to recognize that remote work does not impact the world equally. In high-adaptation cities, where jobs easily transition to remote work, wage inequality is actually reduced and job loss is prevented. But in lower-adaptation cities, they suffer an immediate loss of economic activity and face strong new local inequities. The whole economic fabric of urban development is drastically altering, depending entirely on a city's ability to adapt to a decentralized workforce.
And then there is the massive, undeniable force of artificial intelligence. We are right in the middle of a disruptive paradigm shift driven by machine learning. Just look at these mind-bending realities. ChatGPT is passing US legal exams. AI is writing articles in distinct human voices. It is literally writing code to detect its own text. Entire professions are completely scrapping their old educational and occupational requirements because of this. We are already seeing entire startups being built and run entirely by AI. It's turning our traditional views of intelligence and the economy completely upside down.
Which leaves us with this final, really profound question. As AI disrupts entire professions and our cities continue to decentralize, what will the global entrepreneur of tomorrow actually look like? The rules of the game are changing every single day, but the opportunity for those willing to learn has literally never been greater. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating research with me today in this explainer. Keep learning, keep adapting, and I'll see you next time.